In 3, 2, 1.
John, are we live?
We are live.
That was a
sir.
slow countdown. That's like
It
3, 2, 1. It's like a 5-second countdown. What's going on, buddy?
Not too much, man. Not too much. Just a quick graphic difficulty behind the scenes.
Awesome.
Took an extra second to get it figured out, but, here we are.
You're all set. You're like thinking about Las Vegas, your trip to Las Vegas tomorrow, and you're all over the place.
I am thinking about that. It's funny because it's only going to be about 60 as a high out there over the weekend. But, man, that wind outside today here, 28, 30 degrees, windy. All of a sudden, 58 or 60 sounding great.
I was going to say, I don't feel too bad for you going to 60. Mikhail and I are going to freeze our butts off here in Chicago all weekend long.
Well,
And we're not going to drink and gamble and see cool shows. And I might drink. Actually, I am gambling on Friday. So I lied. I'm going to Rivers Friday.
Sir,
Which means I'll just lose money.
No. We don't do that.
What are you going to Vegas for?
I'm going to Vegas for my second niece's 21st birthday. So niece number one on one side turned 21 2.5 years ago. And her dad and I have been friends forever. And when we were much younger men, we did some silly stuff. And one of the things that we did one night, which turned into a morning afternoon, is we were out all night, and we were at a very late night joint. And we were talking about a buddy of ours that lives in Vegas. And my buddy Mark stood up. He's like, let's go see him. I'm like, shut up, sit down. He's like, no, let's go see him. So we happened to be with a couple of coworkers, and we looked at them, and they're like, you want to go to Vegas? And they're looking at us, and they're like, really? So we jumped a plane from Midway, went out there, called our buddy. He's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, well, we're at the airport. Oh, where are you going? No, at your airport. We came to see you. So his kids have heard some silly stories, PG-13 silly stories. And so now I'm the cool uncle. So when they turn 21, they want me to go with them to Vegas to show them Vegas.
You sure? Are you sure that they want Uncle John for their 21st birthday there?
I swear to God, dude. So here,
Okay.
Brittany, a couple years ago, like I said, when she turned 21, I was at the gym. Maggie was working. We both got a text out of the blue from Brittany separately saying, hey, my 21st birthday is coming up, and we're planning on going to Vegas, da-da-da-da. We'd really like if you joined us.
Uncle John's paying for the bottles.
So it shocked the hell out of both of us. And, so we went out and had a great time. And so now Kimmy is turning 21, and a couple of years from now, another one. And they have a 6-year-old. So I'm going to be like 85 by the time she turns.
You said it, not me.
Yeah, I know. Hey.
Well, have fun. Happy birthday to Kimmy.
Yep.
I will hook you up with some folks in Vegas to show you guys a good time.
I appreciate that. I've got a couple things already lined up through some of my connects out there, but I know you're very well connected as well. So
I just go to Vegas a lot and do dumb things. So
hey, man,
I'm somewhat connected in Vegas now.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Any shout outs before we get into our awesome guest I'm excited to talk to? John always one-ups me, so I'm going to let him go first because this is going to be on the fly, my shout-outs. Oh. I want him to go first now because he always one-ups me.
You had a whole week to think about it.
I'm going to see how good yours are this week.
Oh, my gosh.
Don't take the ones I'm thinking of.
Oh, no. Well, naturally, I want to shout out to Kimmy for her birthday coming up. It's going to be a fun time. I'm very honored to be invited, and looking forward to the trip. And then last week, naturally, it was Thanksgiving, and we did a couple of family get-togethers, and everybody was so gracious, and a lot of good food, a lot of good family, a lot of wine. And so to all those people, I'd like to say thank you. I'm gonna let you run with it.
All right. I was gonna do a shout out to our guest from last week, Gary, who came on. After the show, we got a lot of people who reached out and were very blown away by the show, and then him taking the time to talk to us. So shout out to Gary McCarthy and his staff for taking that hour to come talk to us because he had a really crazy day and he had to go get his kids and he was really busy. So he carved that hour out for us, and that was really cool. Shout out to my Main Street folks. I don't usually shout out to my own office, but our holiday party is next Friday, and our staff has been busting their butt to get this thing set up and ready to go. I know you're coming with Maggie. Hopefully Michaela graces us with her presence.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into planning these things, and they've been awesome all year, and everything they've done the entire year has really kicked butt. We became Inc. 5000's fastest growing companies this year, and I almost never ever talk about our own stuff here, but shout out to the Main Street staff and agents for making this year a pretty kick butt year for us.
Very good. Looking forward to the party.
It's usually drunk. Main Street parties go forever and ever and ever. Usually.
I will just be sobering up from Vegas so I can roll right into that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll beat your hangover.
No kidding.
Well, our guest, we have one guest today, and her and I could talk for hours, so we'll try to keep it to what's left of the hour. Michaela Gordon I'm lucky enough to call her one of my good friends, one of my really close friends. She's a part of the From Now On project, which is an incredible charity. We're going to hear from her about it. #Now, which is a new initiative, and nobody else has heard about it. We're hearing about it first today on Main Street. And she's a business owner. She works at App Properties. Michaela, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Talk to us about From Now On first, and then
Okay.
we'll get into all the amazing things you do.
Sure.
Tell us what it is, because I don't want to butcher it, because it's amazing.
Okay, so I guess the big umbrella organization is called From Now On Foundation. Now that has 2 arms, one of which is called the From Now On Project. What we do is we help kids from the ages of 4 and 14 who are grieving the loss of somebody in their family. It needs to be somebody immediate, so whether it's a caregiver, a parent, sibling, something like that. So they are grieving that loss, and what we do is we kind of go into their home and we do a lot of kind of emotional learning with the child and get them to start understanding how they're feeling and understanding the things they like and dislike about their own personal space in their home. And then through that work, we allow the children to design their own space. So if they have their own bedroom, it can be that. If not, then we kind of work with the family and figure out a space in their home that can be designated for them. And we allow the kids to design it fully the way they want it, regardless of what that means for an adult. And then once the kids have kind of solidified that design, my team and I figure out how to move mountains to make it happen. And then we go ahead and build it.
It's I love it. For those of you who have not seen some of the projects Michaela's done, go on her website, follow her on social media, and go to her events. And go to her events. So Michaela throws these amazing events. They have sometimes like the coolest Chicago performers.
We try.
You guys bring in like the big guns. Like every time.
Yeah.
It's like last time you had somebody from Hamilton.
Yeah, our first big gala event, we had Miguel Cervantes, who has now moved on from Chicago's Hamilton and is doing his own projects. But he was actually Hamilton. He played Hamilton for a couple years here in Chicago. So we had him perform along with some other big names. We try.
Yeah,
we try and bring some flavor.
What's so cool is at all of your events, you have kids and past kids who you've helped impact, and she shows some of their projects, their rooms, and it's amazing what you do for them. How do you pick who becomes the kid who gets his room or her room fixed?
There's a lot of criteria. Some of it has to do with age. Like I said, we're pretty specific as far as the age of the child. The reason for that is on the low end, we want to be sure that they sort of have the ability to at least somewhat vocalize what's important to them. And from the high end side of the age, the reason we focus for the From Now On projects in the home is because when children are a certain age, they are attached to some extent to their caregiver. They aren't allowed, for safety reasons and for good reasons, to sort of be out in the world on their own. And so, when a loss occurs, a lot of times whoever is the new caregiver, or maybe the now main caregiver when maybe they had a counterpart in the past, they're focused on the sort of necessities of making sure dinner is ready, making sure bills are paid, making sure work is done, things like that. And so the kids that are a bit younger, they're sort of stuck in the house because that caregiver doesn't have enough time to sort of maybe go to the park for 2 hours after school or do some other activities that might help stimulate that child's brain to kind of release some of its anxiety. And so on the high end, we want to focus on the kids that are stuck at home. And so when you start talking about a kid who's maybe 16, they might have a little bit more freedom to take themselves, to the rec center or to the park or, sign up for a basketball league. And they don't need to go to that league or that rec center with an adult necessarily. And so they have that freedom to create some of these spaces that help them relieve anxiety without the adult.
That makes a lot of sense. I guess I didn't think about it enough to realize why there was that age gap, but that makes complete sense. And these kids are the most adorable kids. I mean, I've seen them come to your events, and watching how much you've impacted change for them in a really tough situation. And most of them, like you said, it's loss of somebody very, very close to them, is really touching. I mean, I've been a supporter of her charity for a long time. I suggest you guys go take a look at it. John always puts on the websites and a bunch of links. So you'll see in the video a link. You're putting the From Now On Foundation.
From Now On Project.org.
Yep, that's our site.
On there. Yep. Go there, check it out. I think you have stories of the past kids, which are incredible to look at. It's really touching. And I always say, and I hope you're okay talking about this, but Michaela started this from a place that's a lot of passion because it's something she went through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she gets what these kids need. Do you want to tell kind of story of why you did this?
Absolutely. So to start from the beginning, let's start all the way from the beginning if we're going to go there. I have always been really spatial. When I was little, this is kind of the story I tell is most kids will draw the same thing. If you tell that you just give them a piece of paper and a crayon and you say, draw something at a certain age, they're basically all going to draw the exact same thing. They're going to draw a square. They're going to draw a triangle on top of the square. They're going to draw two squiggly lines from the square and tell you it's a house. They might draw some people around it. It's the same picture. Every kid draws it.
By the way, that's the same way I still draw
100%. Everybody draws it that way. And we start to draw it that way as children. I have never drawn that picture. I would draw these like weird origami shape things. And my mom was such a big supporter of that. And she was like, you just keep drawing whatever that is, that no one knows what it means. You just keep going. And as an adult, when I look back on those, all they are is their space. I'm just drawing depth. I'm drawing space. I'm drawing sort of three-dimensional things, but I'm starting to figure out that they're three-dimensional. I'm sort of, as a child, starting to understand what, certain angles mean and what that means for that box. It's not flat anymore. It's three-dimensional. So I've sort of always had that innate sort of understanding that it's not flat. So starting from there, when I was about 10, my mom got sick the first time. And I spent a lot of time in my room. I understood, again, that my room was kind of my box and I could be in it. And it was kind of like the safe sort of shelter, which I can talk about. I have a whole speech on the word shelter. But and I understood that to be my sort of cave where the bad stuff couldn't come in to some extent. The older I got, my mom got sicker and sicker. And when I was 14, she passed away. During that time, her and I sort of redecorated my room. And again, now that I look back on it, I fully understand my obsession at the time with whatever I wanted my room to be, what it meant to me then. Now it makes perfect sense to me. I will tell you, until I did some of these projects with these kids, I didn't know what I was doing. Looking back in hindsight, I fully know what I was doing now. But a lot of times we'll see this with the kids too, is they say stuff and no one knows what it means until you start to apply it, and then it makes perfect sense. So that was kind of my story. I spent a lot of time in my room, basically until I was 18 and I was out of the house. There was a lot of stuff that kind of went on until I was 18 that I was really uncomfortable with, and I just kind of was patiently waiting for it to just all end. And I went to architecture school, graduated from architecture school, had no interest in being an architect. And the story basically goes is that I got my real estate license. I was walking to one of the App Properties offices. I was hit by a car.
I didn't know that.
Oh, true story. I was hit by a car on Michigan Avenue, was flipped onto the hood of the car onto the ground. I was wearing my mom's shoes that day. My shoes were flung across all of Michigan Avenue. I was miraculously fine, like nothing. My ribs, the doctors say they weren't cracked. They were acting like they were cracked. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't do a lot of things for a long time. But on the scans, they were not cracked. As far as the doctors were concerned, like there was not an inch of me that was touched from me flying, on the cars.
And you're
back.
tiny, by the way.
Yeah. So
for people who are only watching this, Michaela is a little human. It's just crazy. It's miraculous.
It was crazy. Like my shoes took the brunt of what occurred, and they were my mom's. So if you believe in things,
it's a miracle.
Think what you want on that. And while I was at my family attorney's house trying to figure out that night what to do, and I was very well medicated in pain meds, I blurted out that I had this idea to start this organization, and I had the idea for many years, and I had just never told anybody. And so for better or worse, I was high, and I told somebody, and now he's my founding member.
That's quite. First of all, there's a lot of incredible things in there. I did not know. I obviously I've known Michaela for a long time, so I knew the backstory about her mom, which, again, from an absolute tragedy, you've taken it, you've learned so much about it, and you've created something incredible to help other people. So a lot of people take bad situations and they don't take them and flip them into something that you've done, which is incredible.
My sort of stance on that is you have the option to be happy or you have the option to be miserable. And there's a lot of work on both ends of that, like mental and emotional work that goes into both ends of that. But if you were, if you're alive, then you have some responsibility there as far as I'm concerned. And so I've just spent a lot of time making sure that my impact is positive.
You embody the idea of giver's gain so much because you're taking a lot of time away from, being a businesswoman. We'll get into that in a second. But you spend so much of your time and effort to help others because you went through something that you now understand. And I'm sure when you're around these kids, and I've seen you around them, so I know you would have this impact, but you're able to then relate to them. You're able to understand, like you said, like the space that you have in a home, how that impacted you might be totally different than the space I had when I grew up and I was just like, okay, this is my bedroom. I have some cards in there and that's my place to go get away from my parents or just go away when my sister's annoying me,
Right.
Not that my sister watches the show. Not that you annoyed me growing up, Sheena. She's going to be pissed. But
all siblings annoy each other.
But you had a completely different understanding of that. And you're going, for the most part, to people who cannot afford to create the space for them, I think, right?
So I will tell you that we do not have a requirement that has to do with finances whatsoever.
It's just a story.
Yeah, it's the story. There is a certain timeline on things. Like we won't do a project if the loss has occurred within a certain amount of months because I just think it's so raw that I'm not going to get any useful content. I'm just going to get like pure sadness. There's not going to be any evolution to it yet. You're getting more of the shock than you are of like the true emotional stuff. But we don't do anything that has to do, or we don't have any criteria that has to do with finances.
Okay. All kids.
Yeah. That being said, I personally review every case before we take it. I would say that even if a family has an abundance of money, if, for example, the person that has been taking care of those children disappears overnight in some kind of freak accident, whatever it is, whoever is left to take care of them might not know how and might not know how to hear what they're saying, regardless of how much money they have. So yeah, they might be able to build it, but I'm not convinced that they can get to that place because they can't do this work in the beginning.
Right.
And so I'm not willing to use money as a factor of why somebody hears or does not hear a child.
I love that. I love that. I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot about what you guys do, but I'm learning a lot during this conversation. And what's crazy interesting is it's almost like you said, you never intended on being an architect, but somehow path led you to be learning the trade of being an architect, because I've watched you kind of design these things back, and you're a very talented architect. And me or John, we would draw I'm speaking for John, we would draw the stick figure room with a triangle on top and maybe some stick figures. I don't even know if
I would have to practice.
Yeah, I would have to
do
practice. But for you to be able to conceptualize a space as an architect, you can really bring that thing to life. Whereas the average person who might even have your passion can't piece it all together and come up with such an amazing product.
Yeah, I think inherently some people are spatial and some people aren't. It's the same way how, some people inherently can be writers and others can't. It's just a natural sort of gift that they have. I will tell you, like, I was awful at school. Like, I was the worst. The fact that I graduated is literally probably...
That's kind of shocking to me.
I'm the worst. My graduation is probably credited to my friends more than my own personal, like, ability. Like, the amount of cheating that went on and to get me through is shocking. But the one thing that professor after professor said to me was, I'm really good at understanding humans and how they interact with space. If you need me to, like, calculate the load of, like, snow on the roof, I have a friend who can do it.
Right.
I know his number by heart, but, like, I probably can't.
Let the chef do the cooking.
Yeah, like, I just know how humans use space and how space interacts with human beings on a sort of emotional level. Beyond that, I know nothing.
I think it's a probably very unique and powerful ability that you have, because I'm sure there's people who have very good spatial understandings of space, but being able to then relate that to how people understand space and how space affects people, that's a whole higher level of understanding.
100%.
I think you've probably gone through so many life experiences to allow you to be able to understand it. Because I don't know, I'm not a scientist, I've never had any research on this, but I cannot imagine somebody who's just good at space can do the job that you do with relating it to human emotions. Like,
I think I have like this weird combo of, like, I don't have a psychology degree, like, I don't have any of that, but just from personal experiences, I take what I've learned on the quote unquote psychology side, and the work I still to this day do on that side, and I try and combo it with my understanding of space. Which is actually kind of a good lead-in, because in my opinion, that's literally the definition of selling real estate.
Interesting. I should learn, because I guess
the more you talk about it, you're going to figure out it's the exact definition.
Question for you. You guys always have an amazing events coming up. Anything that people can help with? I'm getting a lot of people commenting. Michaela rocks. Thank you for what you do.
That's so sweet.
Love this organization.
I
From
love
Now
that.
On Project. 100%. Your mom was there with you. Some incredible comments. So
thank you.
What do you guys have coming up where people can jump in and support?
Sure. So we do our kind of baseline is that we help 4 children a year, minimum 4. So if that means that there is only 1 child in a family that we're helping, then, that's an individual project. If that means there are 3 children in a family, then that's bundled, and it counts that way. But generally it's 1 a quarter. So Q1 of 2019 will be our next project. We always have community volunteer days. The best way to hear about them is through our emails and social media. If you follow us on social, I would say Instagram is probably your best bet. We're posting on there constantly about events, and then also just like inspirational stuff, looking at cute kid rooms and giving people
adorable
ideas. And that's at From Now On Project.
Okay.
That's always the best place to just hear about what's going on and jump in. And then if you actually want to DM us at From Now On Project with your email address, we can add you to our email blasts. And there are newsletters that go out with that info and just kind of updates on what's going on.
And people can go on the site, they can donate, they can buy swag. You guys have pretty cool
we
swag.
Do.
You got like the
so on our website, we're kind of just starting out the swag thing. We're going to see how it goes. But since it is like minus a million degrees outside, we have new fleece headbands on the site. If you want to buy those, we've got pop sockets for your phone.
Pop socket on
I do. I have a pop socket on the back of my phone.
Grabbing her phone, my T-Rex arms here. I don't know if John's going to go to me.
There's a cute little pop socket on there that I broke. There it is.
I never knew what that was called.
Well, now you know. I'm here to educate. It's called a pop socket.
Yeah, it's so you don't drop your iPhone. So
yeah, for people with little fingers that can't like wrap around the whole phone.
Or
that's
fat
what that's for.
fingers like me.
That too. So we have swag on there. You can purchase that, and obviously that money goes straight back to the organization. You can go on the site and donate. Basically, every single page on the site has a donate button.
Yeah.
So you don't have to look too far. And all that money, again, goes back to these projects, and will soon go towards our next initiative.
Great lead-in. Bump set for me to Spike. What is the next initiative?
So as I mentioned, From Now On Project focuses on ages 4 to 14. And kind of the older I get, and the more involved I get in Chicago politics, but also just like life in Chicago and what that looks like, and some of the social issues that exist in this city, I found it increasingly harder to sleep. Knowing that I'm helping a group of kids at a certain age group that exist, maybe in abundance in this city, and I'm not addressing the older age group. And so there's a scale kind of issue in that as well. But we are calling it #now. It is in the very early kind of stages of it, but kind of keep a lookout for it. It will be probably launching in the summer of 2019 for real, like people will start seeing it. But basically, we are working to create a curriculum for high schools in Chicago. It will be for kids basically freshman through senior, depending on that age group. Sometimes it's a little older than 18, just depending on what their trajectory through school has looked like. And it will be an elective class that students are put into either by the principal in the school or maybe one of their other teachers nominates them. And the students will be very specifically students who have suffered some kind of loss, again, sibling, maybe close cousin, people they've grown up with. And the class will basically do the same thing that From Now On project does, but it will do it over the course of a semester or a year, depending on how the school organizes their curriculum. And the end project, the students will build with the help of my organization, but the students will be creating something that will either go into their school or into their community, wherever their school is located. And it will be, again, a big sort of spatial thing. It's a little hard always to define what the kids make because it's not mine, they're making it. So it's hard for me to verbalize sometimes or articulate what they're going to create because I don't really know ahead of time. But they will work together to learn to process their grief, verbalize and articulate their grief, and then use it in a positive manner to create something that is out there either for their school or their community. And then because they are older, they get to learn a little bit about creation and using their hands to make things and those skills to kind of get some of that energy out of them.
You're incredible. I mean, it's... I think John's shaking his head. I mean, it's true though. For you to take your passion, obviously helps so many people between those ages. And then, like you said, I know it keeps her up at night. To keep yourself up at night, worrying about the rest of the kids.
Yeah.
And then coming up with a curriculum, which it's an incredible idea to begin with. And so, John and I, I'm sure will get behind this, and so will anybody else listening that knows and loves you. But to be able to launch that soon, especially, and I agree with you, in a city that probably really needs it. I mean, last week we had Gary McCarthy on, and we talked about how there's a lot of schools that really need help, and you're helping them in a very unique way. You're not only helping the schools, but you're also continuing to help somebody who's grieving a loss and giving them not just an ability to understand that loss and verbalize it, but also learn a skilled trade of some sort,
Totally.
Because that's important. I mean, Gary actually touched on that. He said, a lot of areas like teaching somebody a skilled trade is so important. And you've been trying to figure out how to do that. It's unbelievable.
Totally.
I mean, you just, it's crazy. I mean, it's how much effort you put into caring about everybody else, and doing so much good, to me, is awe-inspiring. You inspire me, so I love it. Anything coming up with that we can help with?
I would say that if I don't know, obviously who's listening or whatnot, but if you do,
the whole world is listening.
The whole world is listening. If you do work in the education field, or if you are close with a principal or somebody on the back end of sort of the school programming. Those are always meetings I'm really happy to take, and I've been taking a ton of them, both with those sorts of people and also sort of city leaders and activists that could really help shape this thing into what I really would like it to be, and make sure it has the effect on the group of children that I think it really needs to affect.
Awesome. John has a question. I didn't know what you were doing over there. John sometimes gives me like signs and cues on whiteboards and stuff.
He's like a cheerleader back there jumping up and down.
He does literally have like a cheerboard. And he put a question mark, and
Okay.
it just means John has a question.
John has a question. I'm listening.
So my question is, I know Mo touched on it a moment ago, as far as how people can get involved.
Yeah.
So when the construction is actually going on,
Yes.
can people come out and join
Yes.
up, and join with you,
Totally.
and paint and
Yes, absolutely.
hammer and-
So we have what we call install day, and then sometimes we have a separate day, which is reveal day.
Okay.
Those 2 days, depending on the size of the project, sometimes that's one day, sometimes they're two separate
Sure.
days. Those are actually the day that whatever the child has created is being implemented. And we always have volunteer days and community days for the people to come out and help.
Okay.
I will tell you that depending on the size of the space, sometimes we have to limit how many people are actually there on that day because
Sure.
it's just too many humans.
Sure.
However, prior to a reveal day, there's probably 2 to 3 weeks of creation of whatever is being created offsite. So sometimes we'll do that in a community center, things like that. And we'll always have a volunteer community day.
Awesome.
And those things will always be posted on social media and in our newsletters. And so that's a way for, people who do want to, just spend a random Saturday. It's nothing glamorous. Like I'm probably going to make you sand a bunch of wood for way longer than you'd ever like to, or paint something, or, we did a huge backyard. It was the longest few days, weeks
Really?
of my life. So I might make you do like really mean physical labor.
John's really good at labor, and he's handy. I'm not.
Like we had, I can't even explain to you what went into this backyard, but it was the summer, and it was like one of those heat stroke weekends. It was like 100 degrees, and I had people out there for over 12 hours.
Oh.
Like, I'm not saying you necessarily need to be there for 12 hours, but
Look at what you signed yourself
I know,
up
right? I
for,
know.
buddy.
Oh, I signed us. I signed us up.
Mo is there to bring the waters. But, I think when people start to get involved, they almost, it's weird. Like, they can't leave.
Right.
I think I have like this incredible ability to guilt people into
You
things.
do. She really does. Exceptional at it.
I have a Jewish grandmother, and there's like something that I was just inherently born with to like Jewish guilt you into things.
Very good.
And so when people are like, we're coming for 3 hours, they were like there for 8 for some reason. And
Right.
like, my
Hey, Mo, can we-
carpenter, who is like the greatest human on earth, he's our like lead GC on all of our projects. Like he had heat stroke. It was bad, but like this backyard was done on time. That's all I cared.
Hey, Mo, can we borrow your truck to drive to IKEA and look around IKEA?
Yeah,
and
that was
load a
like one
bunch
of the first
furniture?
projects we ever did,
and
and
then
I was
drive it
still trying to
downtown.
figure out how to get transportation worked out. And I was like, I need a truck. Somebody give me a truck.
Word has gotten around that Mo has a truck.
Yeah, a big one.
But-
a
We
big
have
one, yeah.
since, I'm going to shout out real quick. We have since, thank God, partnered with a moving company that is really, really helpful.
We can shout him out if you want.
Can we shout them out?
Yeah,
Oh,
shout out
absolutely.
whoever you want. Who? New City?
New City Moving.
New City. Shout out to our
Yeah,
buddies.
shout out
New
to New
City.
City. They're amazing. They
Yeah.
even help to like organize our events and make sure that I'm crazy with the events as well. Like I'm the biggest micromanager there ever was. People probably hate working for me. They brought all the things I wanted to the event and made sure that it was done on time and done the right way. And they're incredible. So
Big shout out to them. I mean, they're
Huge shout out to them.
Big supporters of charity.
yes,
in general.
absolutely. So I don't need your truck any longer. I have a full moving company now.
Thanks, New City.
Yeah, thanks, New
Yeah.
City. Thanks again. Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome. I mean, John, I agree. We should. I think you were sort of volunteering us to go help. I agree.
I was.
Help her out. Everything from the donations to your time. If you don't have the money to donate some time.
Yeah, it's honestly, the time is even, not to say it's more important than the money, because obviously without the money I can't go get anywhere, but time it's really, really one of the hardest things for us to find is not just volunteers, but people to show up when they say they're going to show up and give the time they say they're going to give.
Yeah, and it's share them, follow them on social media. This is, all charity is good charity. 99% of charity is
Right.
good charity. For most of it's for a good cause. What Michaela does in her passion behind her charity comes from a very honest, true place. And I've watched the things she's done at these events. I've watched the kids show up and how impacted
Right.
they've been. It's really touching. I watched literally, and this is no exaggeration, Michaela was giving her talk at her last event.
God.
And I kid you not, there was not a dry eye in the crowd,
including mine.
Including, but you're so passionate, and you were like self-conscious about the fact that you cried. And I'm like, what do you like? It comes across so passionate, and all of us were sitting there like just completely,
Okay, so I have an
throats.
ability to make everyone cry.
She really does. She's very good at it.
Guilty and get me weeping.
It's incredible.
It's she can make you feel really guilty, and she can make you cry.
Awesome. Yes.
She must be a peach to date.
Oh my goodness.
Total other 1 hour topic with Michaela if we got into it.
Different kind of show.
Totally
different kind of show, and I'm not going to be on it.
Yeah. She could get me back just as fast if she wanted to, so we won't go there.
So we should just move on.
Moving along,
shouldn't we?
Stop it. And we'll come back to the charity a little bit at the end there, but again, we love the charity. Follow both, and I can't wait to follow what's going on with hashtag now. This is going to be very cool. It's like the next movement of the next age of people with the same idea. So that's very cool. Let's talk about you as a business person, because you do so much with the charity. You have an architecture background, but you're also a kick butt successful businesswoman, which is really cool. So you got into real estate. I actually didn't know how you got into real estate. You got into it because you were an architect and you kind of fell into it?
Kind of, yeah. I also like a really crazy story I'm not going to tell. But
you didn't get hit by a car again,
did
you?
you? But somebody got me my real estate job, basically. When I graduated from school, I kind of told my family, like, back off. They wanted me to finish architecture school, and I did it basically for them. And so when I graduated, I was like, here's my paper. I did what you wanted. Now leave me alone. And my birthday's in September. So I graduated in May, and I said, by my birthday, I'll have it figured out. Until then, I don't want to talk to you about it. And like, if you bring it up, I'm going to push the deadline. And so no one talked to me about it, and everyone just kind of let me do my thing, and let me have some fun. And, I was kind of toying with the idea of, moving to Southern California. I kind of spent half of my teenage years in Southern California. And so I really wanted to go there, and I thought I was going to get an architecture job there and just bite the bullet. And at the time I was dating somebody, and he wanted me to stay. And so I had always kind of talked about real estate, but just didn't know what to do with it. And he had found an architect who was a realtor, and basically got me an interview. And then I left that interview with a job, on this person's team. And they worked for At Properties. And so I went and got my real estate license, which inevitably led me to you.
Yeah.
Because I met our good friend in my real estate class.
Yeah. You can name her. I told her to watch.
Okay. So I met one of my best friends, Lindsay, in my real estate class. And she is now part of our whole crew. But so that's kind of how I fell into real estate. And then the minute I was in real estate, I realized that like architecture really wasn't for me. I think I really realistically lasted like 8 months with him doing architecture wasn't for me. And I think I lasted about 8 months doing architecture projects with him in addition to real estate. And I was like, I'm good, thanks. But design was always for me. And so I've kind of evolved it all into what makes the most sense for me, which is helping people rehab. And so kind of my niche to some extent is helping people buy properties that need gut rehabs, and purchasing those properties knowing exactly what that gut rehab is going to end up looking like. Because I think what a lot of people end up falling into is their realtor tells them probablys on a lot of stuff. They buy the property, they go hire the architect, and then all those probablys turn into no's or really, really costly yeses. And suddenly the project has to completely change to fit into the budget. And to some extent, I can avoid those things for people.
And I tell, and that's such a great value to add.
Totally.
I get so many people that reach out to me all the time. They're like, Mo, I want to be a real estate investor. And I'm like, okay, what kind of real estate investor? And they watch HETV and they think they can rehab, and they watch Flip or Flop and they think it's cute because the two of them were cute until they got divorced, I guess. But people come to me all the time and I ask them, do you have the people necessary to help you get the flip done? If you don't, go buy and hold real estate. Yeah. Don't come and flip.
No.
That's not the right avenue for you, because one wrong turn can completely fuck up your budget and can completely end you being a real estate investor for a long time.
Totally. You can be so upside down that like now you have to hold the property for X amount of years just to break even. And like the stress of it is a whole different conversation.
Or if
let
they have hard
alone-
money loans, you could go under.
Like so it's not something to just play with. I think changing the cabinet color and the backsplash in a kitchen is a very different conversation than taking the roof off of a house, building a second story, and putting the roof back on.
Yeah.
When adding bedrooms and bathrooms and starting to really change the value of the home by more than, $8,000, I can help you change the colors of your kitchen. But what I'm really great at is taking the roof off your house, putting a second story, adding 2-3 bedrooms and bathrooms, and now completely changing the evaluation and like the entire like concept of your home and making it something that either you can sell or that your family can now live in comfortably and fits in your budget where maybe you couldn't purchase what you needed in your price point from the beginning.
And I can count on my hand, and I mean this, and I come across more realtors than almost anybody, at least from a knowing them, between my law firm and my real estate company. I can count on my hand how many agents I know that can actually have that skill set, and you're one of them.
Totally.
I mean, it's not out there, so if you're looking to buy a place, renovate it, either to live in or flip it, give her a buzz, because I can't stress enough, one F-up or a series of them can literally bankrupt you.
Totally.
Or put you way underwater.
Totally. The best story is like, this is a story of my sister, right? So like, if there was ever pressure to make sure I did this right, my sister is the pressure.
Working on your family stuff.
Totally. Because like, they're going to hate you faster than like any client is going to hate you. Clients tend to give you a little bit more leeway than like your family.
Most.
My sisters, we literally took a home that was 100 years old that basically hadn't been updated in, call it 100 years, and tried to make it into like a modern, 4-bedroom house. Originally, maybe it was 2-bedroom. Like this thing wasn't livable for like today's world. But we did it on a budget that like wasn't enormous by any means to, like I said, take the roof off a house, add an entire level, put a new roof on it, make the whole house look right from the outside, and still be under or at value for what that house is worth today. And those things can happen in phases, or they can happen all at once, just depending on how your financing works out. But, with her, it was really important that she has a growing family, and it was really, really important that we got her the house she wanted in the neighborhood she wanted, but we kind of cheated the system. You can't buy a turnkey ready house on a budget. It's just not possible.
Not in this market, you can't.
So
no
if you need that sort of typical suburban house, that can house a growing family and you want it modern, buying it on a budget is not happening.
Buying it even on a good,
buying it under budget isn't happening.
No.
So it's a skill set for sure. And it's nerve-wracking, but it's also like the one thing I know I can do.
Well, you can do a lot. You're selling yourself short. You can do that exceptionally, but you're also an exceptional real estate agent. I have worked with Michaela on a lot of stuff, us on the legal side, her on the real estate side, and she's incredibly hardworking. The passion she has for everything she does, whether it be her charities or her just passion, you can tell just talking to Michaela, she's passionate. But she's like that on every real estate transaction too. You take care of every client way more than the average agent does by a lot.
Yeah,
you're passionate in everything
totally.
you do.
I would say this, like I understand that marketing is important. I understand that spending money to make money is important and is true to an extent. I will tell you that effort is free on my end. It doesn't cost me any money, and yet it makes me money. So if I could spend a little less on spend money to make money and put a little bit more time in and get a little bit more on the plus side, I'm okay with that.
Well, I was going to ask you for a piece of advice, but that's actually a really strong piece of advice, especially for new realtors. I was going to ask you, the question I was going to ask you was, do you have a piece of advice for realtors who are just starting off? And I think you touched on something great. A lot of people who don't have a big budget to start off, where can you fill that budget gap? And you fill it with effort. Yes.
And I think the best example of it, and I've been telling this to people recently because I don't know why everybody's asking me this question. But I'm not... Okay, so there's kind of this idea to some extent, if you start to sell a certain amount, in theory, like you shouldn't do rentals anymore because your return on your time is so nominal in comparison to a sale that like you're working for free to some extent. And so it's a waste of time, and maybe you should be going and getting buyers and sellers and making a little bit more dollar per hour. And my response to that is, okay, fine. However, I have to pay for marketing that way. And I could put the effort in and take this renter out, and I can guarantee in 2 years when they're ready to buy, they're going to use me because I've been their realtor for all their rentals that no one else wanted to take. They now know me personally. We chat on the phone, and I don't have to spend any money to market to them. So maybe I took a loss on my dollar per hour sort of evaluation, but I also didn't spend any on the marketing side towards that client in the future. And so I'm always going to do my rentals.
So here's what I think, and this is me just analyzing that because I'm crazy about analyzing realtors and their businesses.
That's what you do.
What I hate about real estate coaches and real estate, I don't want to say just managing brokers in general, because not all of them, but a lot of people who coach realtors is they take a very general idea and they apply it to every realtor.
Totally.
And they're like, you should invest this, or you should do this, or you should buy this. People have different strengths.
100%.
And this is why I always advocate one-on-one coaching is very important at a very high level, because what works for you doesn't necessarily work for John.
Agreed.
Doesn't work for me.
100%.
Your strength is in you're so good at relationships, and
Totally.
your passion comes out. So you're investing a lot of time in relationship building, whereas some people suck at relationships. I had a great question someone asked me, and if you're a realtor that doesn't have a good personality, well, you're fucked, because this was a really interesting question.
That's not true, actually. You can sit behind a computer and be good to go and spend a bunch of money.
But you have to hire someone to be able to be the you person.
Yes.
For sure.
But like you can pay them, nothing.
Yeah, you have to hire that person.
Yeah.
But the one thing somebody asked me, and it was a really good question, was, Mo, what is one thing you cannot teach a business owner? And I was like, oh, that's kind of a good question. I actually don't know the answer to that. So I thought about it for a second. And I said, to be honest with you, I can't teach personality. I can teach somebody stuff and make them comfortable, right? In a situation. I know you've danced with something you did.
Yeah.
But if I asked you a question about dance, you could talk about it comfortably because you know the material. Right. So I can teach somebody knowledge to get them comfortable with the material, but I can't teach personality. And that's something you have in abundance, and it's a strength because you have more than the average person does. So you're doing the right thing. You're using that.
Totally. And it took me a long time. Like I'm not going to sit here and say that I am like this magical success story. Year one in real estate, I sold $1 bazillion.
Nobody is. They all lie when they say that.
And to be fair, there is, the one or two that do that. And they're incredible for falling into or learning their strengths so quickly. I have been victim of like trying to use everybody else's technique, and it doesn't work for me. And I finally just decided at some point that in the nonprofit world, I've said this since the day I started, my nonprofit will grow at my comfortability rate. I think I just made up a word, but like it's going to grow at the rate that I'm comfortable with it growing, and at the rate that I am growing. I don't care what the sort of marks are of how fast it's supposed to grow per statistics. I think in real estate, that's a little tricky because everything is sort of this competition with everybody else.
Which I think is crazy.
Which is insane. And I get it, right? Like everybody uses that to try and get more clients and whatever. I get it. But I think when you do that, you sort of inherently stunt yourself because you're not learning what works for you. You're just taking everybody else's positive and trying to put it on yourself. And it's not going to work. They don't have my personality. I don't have their whatever they have.
Yeah, you have all the rest of their stuff too.
But I mean, everybody has a strength, right? And everybody has a weakness.
Some people don't have the strengths. They're not well-rounded. It's true.
That's fair too. I'm very clear on my weaknesses, but I'm also really clear on my strengths. And that's taken me some time too. So I would always just tell people, regardless of what you're doing, if it's in real estate, if it's, starting a company, whatever it is, try your best to silence the noise because it's actually what's going to screw you up. Just like stick your course and know that like as long as you keep going down the path of least resistance for you personally, you'll be fine.
I love that. We've had a lot of good advice on this show, and I love that because we've had a lot of repeat advice too, which is fine because a lot of times the same thing works for the same person, but for you that's very different. Because you and I could go for hours. Before we finish, I got to find some stuff about Michaela. I know most things about you, but
well, you didn't know I got hit by a car.
I didn't know that. That's crazy, and I didn't know you weren't hurt.
Yeah.
But as Maggie said, I do believe that your mom was with you because that is an incredible
100%. I mean, there's
story.
just what happened that day doesn't make any sense. Like none of it makes any sense.
I flipped a car one time. I hit a tree, and the tree saved me from going across into oncoming traffic, and it landed me in a median.
Yeah,
and
like
it stopped me from going
things
across.
like this don't make any sense. Like they're freak situations.
Not a mark on my body.
Yeah,
not a
that's
mark
exactly
on my passenger's body. We should have been dead. When you see the car, you imagine.
Totally.
Actually, somebody bought the car in an auction, found out
what had
a
happened.
receipt in the car, and called the mechanic shop that I had used to take the car to, and said, "Hey, my condolences to whoever was in the car, but do you have X, Y, and Z?" And they're like, "Oh, he's fine." The guy called me. He's like, "We were so scared to call because we thought you died." I go, "I didn't have a mark on me." So I agree with you. It's sometimes things are unexplainable and they happen for that reason. Favorite place to travel?
Okay, so I have two, I guess. Southern California is like my happy place. So much of my life when things were just garbage. And I really just didn't understand how to function after my mom died. And, stuff was really, when she was sick and after she had died, I spent my summers in Southern California. And so Southern California has always just been like when everything's wrong, just get on the plane.
We're in Southern California.
Orange County.
Okay. The OC.
Get on a plane, go. It'll be better when you get there. For better or worse, like it's always worked. Like the second I get there, somehow like the anxiety level drops. But my favorite place that I've been in the world is Tel Aviv.
Okay. I've never been.
It's basically Miami mixed with
culture.
It's like culturally kind of Miami, but like vibey kind of like New York.
Okay.
So it's like New York and Miami together on the beach. It's incredible.
It's tough for me because I don't really like New York that much and I really don't like Miami. But if you like those two, it seems like a perfect blend.
It's like the good of the two together and without the bad of the two.
Okay, perfect. Very cool.
It's not as like crowded and dirty and annoying, but there's like movement the way New York has. And then there's a little less insanity than Miami, but it's got like the good stuff in the culture of Miami.
Good. All right. Well, favorite shot, and I'm wondering if you're going to say our group's favorite shot.
That is not my favorite shot. That's everyone else's favorite shot.
Catherine Holbrook's going to be so
Catherine's
pissed.
going to cry in a corner right now. Actually, no, because her favorite shot is what you... No.
That's my tequila shot, yeah.
It's the tequila shot that you guys like to throw at the wall. I'm
let me clarify that. We don't throw shots at the wall.
Yeah, let's hear that.
Federales, there is
you throw shots at the wall.
You throw shots at like a bell. Have you ever been there, John?
I have not.
So you take an ice shot.
Okay.
And then you throw...
The shot glass is made of ice.
Ice.
Nice.
So it's in ice, and then you throw the ice shot glass at the bell.
Okay.
So we have
You have to be skilled enough to hit the bell because otherwise you're throwing it at the wall.
Well, how far are we talking?
Me to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically our distance. For people who can't see, 10 feet?
Yeah. 10, 12 feet.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you, me, Michaela, Catherine, Lindsay, and our buddy Nick, we have this thing. It's hashtag girl pack is the girls. I'm not one of the girl pack.
So the three girls is hashtag girl pack.
And then me and Nick are hashtag Mostos, his last name and mine. So we drink from time to time together. And Catherine and I throw these ice shots at this bell. So yes, it is our favorite shot. But Catherine and I have a second favorite shot. Catherine and I have very similar drinking habits.
Yes. I am a very typical like Eastern European girl. Just give me a shot of chilled vodka.
Yeah.
I'm good to go. All I ever want is a shot of chilled vodka.
Just straight? Do you lemon drop it with the sugar and the...
I don't need the calories, do you?
I do not. I do not.
No, she's straight. I see her
salad.
Yeah, no, I just need it chilled. Warm vodka isn't good for anybody.
No.
But
gluten-free.
Yeah, well, gluten-free is a whole different topic.
Yeah, blah,
chill
blah,
it.
blah.
Chill the shot, and I'm good to go. That being said, my grandmother is 80 years old and takes shots of cognac at like any time of the day. So, you have to understand where I come from.
No, yeah, my mom, she's 82.
Yeah.
But yeah, she'll put
No,
back
totally.
Jim
My
Beam.
grandma was drunk for 4 days during her 80th birthday when her friends came into town. Like, you have to understand where I come from. It's not my fault.
I want to party with her. It's funny. My mom, when we went to London with her, she's going to kill me for saying this, actually. But when we got there, we had a long flight. So we started taking, me, my sister, her, and some family members started taking some shots.
This is normal.
And my mom didn't realize they were double shots because they poured them in like, big glasses. So 3 in was really 6 shots. And then we look at her and she's kind of like swaying a little bit. Like, we got to put you to sleep before the rest of us go out. But looks like all of our family members drink a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
we're gonna have one hell of a big party someday.
Yeah, so our second favorite shot, we always go out around the Christmas holidays. I don't know if you've ever heard of this shot. It's Christmas in your mouth. That's
No,
like a Christmas.
It doesn't sound good, does it? It sounds
it
delicious,
sounds-
and then like the aftermath is awful.
It's minty and
It's blue.
sounds kind of dirty.
Yeah, that's kind of like where it's dirty. The whole thing is dirty.
yeah.
Dirty.
The shot is dirty. It's all dirty.
So it's minty and what? It's just.
I mean, I don't know what is
It's
in
a
it.
thick. It's gonna sound
It
bad.
says
thick
it's like
shot.
it's milky. It's bad. The whole
Yeah.
thing is bad, and
This
it's
is-
called
yeah.
Christmas in your mouth.
This is getting worse. It's
And,
thick. It's milky. It's
Mo
Christmas in your mouth.
insists that we take lots of it.
really.
Well, I always insist that we take a lot of shots everywhere I go. Johnny's just commented so many ice shots. Remember taking double shots at my place. Maggie
Johnny
says,
Roto.
Maggie says it's blue? Question mark. Yes, it's
Yeah,
blue.
it is. It is.
Maggie's John's girlfriend. So you're gonna have to
Oh.
take John to go get Christmas in your mouth shots.
Well,
Well-
maybe in Vegas.
No, I don't.
No,
They only have.
I
them
think
here.
it's just at this bar here. It's like their own special shot.
Oh,
they
really?
make. Yeah.
Oh,
We're out of time, but before we go, I want to reiterate again
'Kay.
from now on project.org.
.org at From Now On Project.
At From Now On Project, and you guys can go on there. You guys can donate your time. You can
Please.
buy some swag. You can
Yes.
donate some money.
Yes.
Michaela's events that come up, attend them. They're packed houses. They're amazing. Try to support them as much as you can. Everything she does really comes from the heart. It helps so many people, and it's one of the most passionate things you're ever going to attend.
I appreciate
Watching
that.
her there is, like I said, there's usually not a dry eye. She does a very good job of making you guys do what she wants, but also inspiring and touching people
I
when she's
appreciate
telling
that.
her story. So thank you, Michaela,
You're
for coming
welcome.
on.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're inspiring. I'm lucky to call you a friend. John, at the end of our shows, is going to start announcing
Oh.
our next week's shows.
Dun, dun, dun.
I am.
So
I
John,
am
what
gonna
do you got
ask-
coming up?
I am going to ask just one more quick
Yeah,
question. Though.
absolutely.
And that question is, I know you said that you give notice when people can come out and volunteer. A week, 2 weeks? How long do you usually
Yeah,
get
it'll
people?
usually. So I will tell you, we're going to work on getting a little bit better about it.
Okay.
It's a little tricky because I don't know what we're building until like 2 weeks before it's installed.
Oh, I got you.
Because the kid has to create
It's a
it.
really quick turnaround.
So it's a very quick turnaround.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
so it can be a little chaotic and a little tricky, but
Sure.
we're trying to make that transition a little bit easier.
Okay.
I would say it's usually about 2 weeks. 2 weeks notice
Yeah, okay.
before, volunteer day, whenever that is.
Yeah.
I also am going to plug 2 more things if that's okay. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
plug
I know
away.
we're A
That's
little
what
out
we're
of
here
time.
for.
So there's always the community volunteer day. We are working on kind of creating corporate volunteer days. So if you run a company or you are a part of a company where you guys know you do stuff like that, please do reach out to us. What we will do is basically when a project is in creation, we will designate certain activities for that corporate volunteer day to get stuff done earlier rather than all in the back end of those 2 weeks. And then
Gotcha.
I can kind of break up the build, whatever it is we're building.
Very good.
But again, it's kind of hard for me to tell these people in advance what we're doing because I don't know.
Just agree to donate your time.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
like agree to donate your time and know that I'll fill it up, but
Awesome.
I just can't tell you what it is.
Until you have
Okay.
heat
Yeah.
stroke. Sometimes.
Right, until you have heat stroke, and then I might give you a water if you ask nicely, and Mo brings it. And the second thing is we are building our auxiliary board for the From Now On project. If that is something that you are interested in participating in, if you are looking for a board of a nonprofit that you'd like to be a part of, again, please reach out to us. You can email us at fromnowonproject@gmail.com. You can DM us. You can message us on the site. You can find us anywhere. We've got people covering all of the communication lines. Find us.
Okay.
Talk to us. Tell
See
us
Michaela
things.
out taking a chilled shot of vodka. Approach her, ask her about
I
how
will.
to get involved.
Yeah, we're trying to build this board. I'd like to get it built before the end of January.
Okay.
So if you're listening and you maybe wanted to get involved with an organization and you just didn't know how yet, joining an auxiliary board is a really great way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
It's a great
awesome.
way to give your input and give back
Yeah.
to an amazing,
Totally.
amazing cause.
Very much. All right.
Well, John,
That
what do
was-
you got?
Thank you for all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me do that.
Oh,
last plug there.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. We don't
Absolutely.
nobody shuts us off here at Wheelhouse.
No.
We don't have anybody saying, "Hey,
No.
you got to go."
Yeah, no.
Nobody can tell us what we can and cannot plug.
That's true.
I do have vodka back here, by the way.
Is it Tito's? I get I'm kind of
Oh,
picky and
so it's got to be a certain temperature. It's
I'm
got to be a
just
certain
way
label.
pickier than I'm putting out right now.
That'll
No Tito's.
Un poquito.
Well, then I'm good then.
All right.
We have proper 12 whiskey over there too.
You guys
do.
do. I see that actually.
It's calling to you, isn't it?
no,
Good
no,
amount
I
of that
can't drink.
bottle is gone.
Yeah, we toast John and I sometimes after
Yeah.
the
Time to
show.
time.
Okay, I like it. I like the vibe in here.
All right. Very good. Speaking of toasting, probably do one after this. If that's, if we
You
can
know.
talk you into it.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then we'll move into next week. I just put a graphic up. Next week's show, we have a gentleman named Mike Mills. We're going to be doing a FaceTime with him. He is the CEO and founder of Lux Gift and Goods. Right in time for Christmas, we're going to talk about a lot of handmade items, very cool, crafty things, and he's going to give our listeners a certain percentage off. So
Cool.
tune in. We're also going to have Regine Russo, who we had Mo, 4 weeks in, 5 weeks in? So it's been almost 6 months. She is from shallwewine.com. She is a wine connoisseur. She's going to bring some wines for us to
We're
taste.
going to drink on that show.
And we're going to be talking about wines that pair with different foods
Ooh.
going into the holidays.
That's
She
great.
is also going to bring with her a friend who is a wine culture curator. I don't even know what that means, but it's on my sheet of paper,
I'm
so I had to
interested
say
in-
it.
I know. I want to know how
I
to
wanna
become
know
one
too.
of those.
Curating
Exactly.
a wine culture in my bar.
I like wine culture.
His name is
Come back
Derek
next week.
Westbrook. He'll be with us next week as well. So I believe he might be bringing some wine with him. So we might just Uber to and from the studio.
Well, I have an event starting at 6:00 next Wednesday, so it'll be perfect to get tipsy.
You could just
here.
crawl
Yeah.
to
We
the
should
next
go to
place.
that.
Get primed here and then
Yeah, like a good.
just roll over there. Yeah, sure.
Cool.
So those are the guests for next week. That's all I got, my man.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for Michaela
Of course,
for coming
thank you
in.
for having me.
It was an amazing show. Like I always say, we could go for hours and hours.
Forever.
Michaela, I could probably
Absolutely.
go days and days. Tune in next Wednesday at 3:00. Watch John and I drink a little bit, learn about wine, and talk about business. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks.
In 3, 2, 1.
Hey, that was awesome.